Here we go. Welcome to the 2020 Littleton Economic Development Celebration. I'm so excited to see all of you here and to have attendees from around the world joining us to hear what's the latest in Littleton economic news. I really love this annual event. It was always one of my favorites. We'd all huddle together at the Elks Club or the Opera House, and we'd sit close at tables and eat our chicken lunch and listen to all the updates from industry leaders from across the town. Brian Ward was the MC for many years and would always just give us 5 minutes each. So it was always kind of exciting to try and eat your lunch and listen to the updates and have your 5-minute speech ready. And then once you were over, you could sit back. I think a few people might have dozed off, but we won't talk about that. And that's my goal today, is to keep you alive and entertained while we bring this event virtually. I know it's not the same and it is only temporary, but we're gonna make the most of it. And I'm so excited to be the host this year. I'm Veronica Francis, owner of Notchnet and GoLittleton.com. And I'm excited to have an esteemed panel here today to help me make this virtual event fun, entertaining, and informative. So to help me keep things a little lively and to run the controls, I want to introduce to you my co-host today is Chrissy Smith. Hello, Chrissy.
Hi, pleasure.
Chrissy is the Vice President of Marketing at Peabody and Smith. She's also the 2-time president of the Littleton Rotary Club, and she knows her way around a Zoom room. So I invited Chrissy to help me today to run the controls. She's also going to be here to help us with some of the engagement that our audience can participate in. So Chrissy, how are things over there on Cottage Street today?
All is well on Cottage Street. It's great to be here. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone who's attending today. It's a pleasure to have you. As we go through the day today, if you've got any questions, you can type them in the bottom in the Q&A, and we'll be monitoring those and asking questions after.
Great. Well, thank you, Chrissy. So yes, if anyone has a question or if you can't hear, you can raise your hand. Chrissy's going to be watching the participants, our audience. So we thank you, the audience, for attending, and to play along, raise your hand, ask a question, and we're here to make this as enjoyable and comfortable for all of us. And as you see, we have gathered together an esteemed panel of experts from Littleton who have all agreed to be live this morning, and I appreciate their bravery to be on live with us. So just to give a little introduction before we kick off the festivities, we have William Jolly, the board president of the Littleton Area Chamber. Hello. We have Andy Smith, owner of Peabody and Smith Realty, and going to give us a nice update on the real estate market. John Hennessy is joining us. We know him from the Littleton Coin Company, but he's also been the leader of the Littleton River District Commission, and he's going to update us on the Littleton River District. We have Dan Stunnard over at Woodsville Guarantee Bank. He's going to give us a nice update on the banking industry in Littleton these days. We'll be hearing from Mr. Bill Malikas later on, who he has some secret announcement for us. And we have our town manager, Andrew Dorsett, who's going to be giving us some nice project updates. And we also have my co-host as well, Kuba Kukowski, who has joined the Go Littleton team. He and Allie Butterfield helped me all the last few weeks putting these video clips together for you today. Kuba's been out talking to business owners around Littleton, and he's here today. He's going to be sharing some of the videos and a perspective from a fresh pair of eyes here in Littleton. So we'll hear from Kuba later. How you doing, Kuba?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you for the great introduction.
Thanks for coming. So thank you to all of you for coming, and also to Peter Cooper, who's the vice president of the Littleton Area Chamber. When Peter came to me it was just 2 weeks ago, and he said, it looks like we're gonna have to move this popular annual event virtually. And he's like, how are we going to do that, Veronica? Think we can pull that off? So I thought to myself, let me think on that. And then I started having some flashbacks of when I faced technology first in Littleton before in my career. Like in 2003, when we just launched Go Littleton and had a launch party at the Parker's Marketplace and showed what broadband could do for local businesses. A few years later, I got very excited about Wi-Fi and was the first to install a Wi-Fi antenna on the Opera House and beamed it down the street to show everyone how to use Wi-Fi. A few years after that, the Littleton Rotary Club came to me and asked me, can you bring our Rotary radio auction online? And we did it together, and we had a successful online auction for very many years. And then even being the leader of the team who brought the WMUR webcam to downtown Littleton. And that webcam is still one of the most popular pages on all the Littleton websites. So after I thought about how I faced those technology challenges, and when Peter was saying, are we going to be able to bring this technology event to online? I said, yes, let me put on my superhero cape and my Pollyanna optimistic attitude and make this event not only online, but entertaining. So let's do this, people. We're going to kick this off and have a little fun. But with staying with tradition, we always start with the Pledge of Allegiance and an invocation. So please join me as with the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our Littleton Select Board Chairperson, Carrie Genre.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Father Mark Dollar, the pastor of St. Rose of Lima Parish here at Littleton, and I'm honored to pray the invocation for your meeting. So let us pray. Lord, we gather today to conduct business of the Littleton Economic Development of the Chamber of Commerce. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our discussions so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. Amen. Oh, and P.S. Please give us all the grace to work Zoom properly.
Hello, and welcome to the 2020 Littleton Area Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Celebration and the Ray Burton Business Leader of the Year Award. I'm Bill Jolly. I'm the Littleton Area Chamber's Board President, and 2020 has been a tough year for all of us. The economic climate continues to be a fluid and dynamic one, and just as we have done in the past, we are adapting, we're still here, and while our mettle is being tested, we continue to demonstrate incredible strength and resilience. In today's program, we have some fantastic speakers. I anticipate engaging, informative, and helpful presentations, but please know that none of today's events would be happening were it not for the highly skilled trade craft of Veronica Francis and her crew at Notchnet, and for the great leadership of Peter Cooper. Thanks to all of you for your help. Ali, you've been terrific on the videography. Veronica, you're just putting this whole thing together. And Peter, of course, with your leadership. Without it, this probably would have been a far less robust event. So thank you all. Without further ado, let's roll up our sleeves and dig into today's program.
Introductions, and now we'll kick off to our keynote speaker. She's one of the busiest women I know in the North Country, and our speaker today has taken time out of her busy schedule to give us an update from the State House, and today's keynote speaker is Erin Hennessy. And Erin is a 3-term state representative for Grafton 1. She is a ranking member on the House Finance Division 3, a member of the Legislature Advisory Board to the Governor's Office for Economic Relief and Recovery, and chairman of the Commission on Demographic Trends. I told you she was busy. And on December 2nd, she'll start her new role as state senator for New Hampshire District 1. So I'm proud to introduce is our update from our own Erin Hennessy.
And Chrissy, it's good to see everyone's virtual faces. I hope next year we can do this in person. This being Littleton's Economic Development Celebration, I was asked to join you today to speak about what the state is doing to help with economic recovery from COVID-19 and my role in it. In early April, I got a call from Governor Sununu asking me to join the new Legislative Advisory Board to his Office for Economic Relief and Recovery, or GOFER. This bipartisan board is made up of 4 House members and 4 Senate members. The Legislative Advisory Board's role is to recommend to GOFER how to spend the $1.25 billion New Hampshire received from the federal government's CARES Act. To make these recommendations, we are continuously hearing from various stakeholder groups regarding how the COVID-19 virus is impacting the New Hampshire economy. The governor took and continues to take all of the Legislative Advisory Board's recommendations into consideration when making decisions and developing his grant programs. Living in a small community, it's very easy to see and feel the benefits of these grant programs coupled with the federal government's PPP program. From restaurants to healthcare providers to farms to retail, many of our small local businesses are able to stay open during these very challenging economic times because of these grants. Some of the most beneficial programs for this area have been the Main Street Relief Fund, the Self-Employment Livelihood Fund, Nonprofit Economic Relief Fund, Healthcare Provider Relief Program, Child Care Recovery and Stabilization Program, and the Agriculture COVID-19 Relief Fund. What do these programs amount to in numbers? Not including the most recent program, the Main Street Relief Fund 2.0, Littleton had 97 organizations receive over $4 million in GOFER grants. Bethlehem had 34 with $637,000. Franconia had 35 with $903,000. Sugar Hill had 7 with $175,000. Lisbon had 15 with $570,000. Monroe had 7 with $276,000. Landaff had 6 with $103,000. Lyman also had 6 with $94,000. And all of Coos County had 364 with over $16.5 million. Programs that have gone directly to North Country workers to help stabilize frontline work that is not able to be conducted remotely include the New Hampshire Frontline Protective Workers Stipend Program, the First Responder and Correctional Officer Incentive Stipend Program, and the Long-Term Care Stabilization Program. And programs that will help prevent COVID-19 related costs from increasing property taxes include the Public School COVID-19 Support Fund at $200 per student, and the municipal and county COVID-19 cost reimbursement programs. As of today, almost all of the $1.25 billion has been allocated by Governor Sununu to various different programs. Later today at our GOFER meeting, the Legislative Advisory Board will find out if any of these allocated funds have been unspent and are still available for new programs. The $1.25 billion must be spent by December 30th of this year. Any funds unspent will go back to the federal government. Also, although the distribution of the CARES Act funds have made a huge difference both locally and throughout the state, at this time we do not know what the need will be in 2021 and if there will be another round of funding from the federal government. In closing, I would love to hear from members regarding any emergency orders that should be made permanent. What did you find helpful that took down unnecessary red tape or hurdles? For example, I know it as a consumer, I thought it was great when I could get my Beal House burger and a beer to go. I did see that a House member has already filed a bill to make the to-go alcohol permanent. Whether it relates to healthcare, economic signatures, or notary, restaurant regulations, or anything else, I would love to hear from you regarding any emergency orders that help to stimulate economic growth in the North Country and should be made permanent through legislation. And I thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me today. As always, if you have any concerns or questions related to state government, please reach out to me at any time. Thanks so much.
Okay, Well, thank you, Erin, for taking that time out and giving us some of those updates from the State House. I think we're doing better, right? We could see and hear her okay on that. We're
Actually,
moving
no.
along.
I can't see anything. The screen went blank.
Oh, no, it did?
Yeah.
How about other people? Okay. So we'll have to work on your video player, Bill, or something to see what we can do about that.
Good morning. My name is Greg Eastman.
Okay, so now I'm queuing up our next one, which is a little tricky to host the meeting and turn the videos on. That's where I'm gonna have to work on getting my assistants to run the video controls where I could be the host. But anyway, we're moving along. We thank Erin. Now we'll hop into our panel and hear some updates from some of our local leaders on some of their industries and their commissions that they belong to. Next, we're going to be hearing from Greg Eastman. He's been the president of the Littleton Industrial Development Corp for years. He works tirelessly to help bring manufacturing businesses and retaining them in our beautiful industrial park. So Greg put together a little update earlier this weekend with me to give us an update on what LIDC's been up to this year. So I'll share my screen and we'll kick it off with Greg.
Good morning. My name is Greg Eastman. I'm the president of the Littleton Industrial Development Corporation. What I'd like to do this morning is review various companies in the industrial park that have been dealing with business with COVID-19. Dealing with the COVID has certainly been a big struggle for all of us. I've been in touch with the Littleton Coin Company, Appalachian Stitching, Genfoot, Rotobeck, and Burndy, and how they have adapted to operating in our current climate. First off, these companies certainly have made all the necessary changes to continue to operate. Adaptability, flexibility, and a high level of communication are all themes with these companies, all while addressing CDC and the state of New Hampshire guidelines. All companies have been flexible with their employees while continuing to operate. The Coin Company currently has approximately half of their labor force working from home, which requires a high level of logistics, dropping off and picking up work. The Coin Company has also been able to maintain their employment level of about 250 people. Appalachian Stitching has produced over 750,000 medical masks to date, and their production is strong for in their future outlook with their production of their acoustical panel manufacturing systems. Both companies have been very active in hiring new people. All the companies I've spoken with are very active looking for additional employment. Genfoot has been very flexible with their employment base as well, with strict emphasis on cleaning during and in between shifts. And Genfoot again is looking for additional employment. COVID hit Rotobeck fairly hard in the early days and has bounced back very effectively and favorably since then, and a backlog of orders has returned. They benefited greatly from the PPP program, as funds were very beneficial to Rotobeck as they were able to bring back furloughed employees and get them back on their production line. Burndy has also weathered the COVID storm successfully and is also looking to hire more people. Burndy has a very high demand for all their products, and they've invested heavily in automation recently to help assist with the labor shortage. Burndy has added a weekend shift and is looking to go to a 24/7 production line. All these companies have shown great resiliency and flexibility in adapting to life with COVID. As a business community, we are fortunate that our industrial manufacturing companies have been able to successfully adapt to our business climate, and all are looking to add to their employment base. As for LIDC, we, a couple years ago, applied for a grant from the Northern Borders Regional Commission in the amount of $119,500. The purpose of the grant request was to continue to invest in the industrial park, specifically into Phase 4 of the master plan, and that was to begin construction of an access road on a 42-acre parcel in the park that LIDC owns behind the transfer station. After being awarded the grant, Horizon Engineering was selected to facilitate the project. Permits were applied for and eventually approved by the Department of Environmental Services. The project was then put out to bid, and construction began late summer and wrapped up early fall, and construction was done by Calder Construction. We now are able to better show prospective industrial and manufacturing companies this particular lot for a potential new facility. The road will be extended and improved as the park expands. LIDC this year has also assisted with the sale of tax credits for the town of Littleton for the benefit of the Littleton Riverfront Commons project, which John Hennessy will have more to say about a little later in the program. Thank you.
Last year, we moved the Notchnet headquarters to downtown Littleton. When this space came available, right across from the Pollyanna sculpture, we were so excited to open a Go Littleton shop and feature Pollyanna and Littleton souvenirs. It's been great fun meeting tourists from around the world visiting Gladtown. And we always introduce them to the walkway underneath the Pollyanna Gateway that brings them down to the gorgeous new River District. And now, to tell us what latest updates and enhancements are happening at the River District is John Hennessy, the Littleton River District Commission Chair.
Thanks, Veronica. As promised, my Wi-Fi went out for the last 2 minutes, right when it was my turn to get ready to roll. So let me share my screen here in my presentation.
Well, we want to make it exciting, so.
Mission accomplished. Okay. Veronica, you see that okay?
Yes, looks great, John. Go for it.
All right. That didn't shake me at all. I'm ready to roll. All right, everyone, good morning. As you can see here, I did not get first choice of office location in my house next to the senator and 2 children working remotely, but rest assured I am indoors, no worries. So I'm the chairperson of the River District Commission. We have a lot of hardworking volunteers. I just happened to be the one that got volunteered to do these presentations on behalf of the group. And so you get me today. So we have a lot in the works for 2020, and I can tell by the audience list that you are all very actively involved in the community and have heard these updates before. So I won't spend much time at all reviewing what we've done to date. I'll just give you a quick snapshot, and then we'll talk about 4 projects that we have in the works right now and going forward. So snapshot of where we're at today. We've raised $5 million so far in the 8 years that we've been operating as a commission of the town of Littleton. $3 million of that has been invested, so 60% invested already into projects, with the remainder going to be invested over the next couple of years. It's all secured though, so that funding is ready to roll and benefit the town. Littleton has had a successful model of working on projects, and that is to invest in town-owned assets and then use that to spur investment. And that's exactly what the River District has done. And we're proud to say that the town itself has only had to contribute 20% of the cost of this project, and really has only constructed things that it would have needed to anyway with its own money. So everyone loves photos. I did a big photo before and after last year, so I have just a couple to share with you again this time of what we've done so far. So, and before I move into these, I will say huge thanks in 2020 to Andrew Dorsett and the town of Littleton, the select board, and all of our hardworking volunteers have really moved these projects forward very successfully, especially Andrew and the town. That was Bridge Street, the way it used to look when the old bridge was removed. This is the new pedestrian and bicycle bridge that was constructed. This is the old intersection behind the town office in Bank in New Hampshire. This is the new and improved version of that. And finally, this is the old Saranac Street. And this is the new and improved version of Saranac Street. So a lot's been done to date. And the benefits that we've already reaped based on that investment as a town, not only revitalizing what you just saw, but $3 million of private investment have come online, increasing the tax base and helping reduce the tax burden to our taxpayers who have made some investments themselves into this, and 120 new jobs, as well as all the enjoyment that we all get and the increased tourism from it. So what do we have going on now with the remaining $2 million that we're going to invest? Really excited to say that the Rails to Trails project, after 10 years of hard work and waiting, Hammer Down Construction is actively pulling the rails right now, and that's going to extend the trail from the industrial park all the way through downtown Littleton. So far, the rails have been pulled through Cottage Street, and they've done a great job compacting that old soil that's under there. And then they're going to continue that on before the end of the calendar year, all the way through to Reddington Street. So we'll have one trail that'll really connect the town together and be a great asset for biking, walking, snowmobiling. Really excited to see that in place. And the final piece to that will be next construction season. It'll be too cold this winter, but that'll get a fresh top coat of compacted gravel on it. So it'll be really nice to use for everybody next summer. Riverfront Commons is the other project that we're doing a lot of active work on. And I've got a rendering of that for you to show you what that looks like. The far right-hand building you see on here is the Senior Center. So this project is in process of securing this large 7-acre parcel of land. And then we'll plan and construct the parking lot that you see here, which will be 50 to 80 new spaces that will be lit to serve the senior center and downtown businesses. And the other building you see on the right-hand side is an old storage barn that's going to be refurbished through a tax credit program and turned into a community building. Use still to be determined, but should be a really nice asset for the town. And that is thanks to a lot of you on this call. Your businesses have really contributed to this, as well as being moved forward by Horizons Engineering, NCIC, Andrew, Chad Stearns, and Greg Eastman. And the contributors, we just published an ad in the newspaper this week, but special thanks to all the very generous businesses: Littleton Chevy Bank in New Hampshire, Woodsville Bank, Mascoma Bank, Union Bank, Pasumsic, Cartographics, the Food Co-op, Gellert Management, Littleton Coin Company, Profidos, and Peabody and Smith, as well as a number of individual donors. So once again, you as a community have come really strong in supporting this effort, and we certainly appreciate it. The project that's got away so far is the second phase of the Main Street reconstruction. So we have this pretty picture of the intersection that we want to construct that will replace the really nasty one that connects Meadow Street with Saranac Street right now. We've tried several times to get this funded. It hasn't worked out. So Andrew and the town have a whole new strategy for 2020 and 2021 to go after this a different way. But this is kind of the final major construction piece that we've been seeking that we haven't been able to do yet, but still hard at work on it. And then the final two pieces that we will get to in planning in 2021, we've got a major sidewalk project on Cottage Street that'll reconstruct the sidewalk through that entire street. Plan will be this year and construction in the next couple of years. And then also on Mill Street, there's a sewer and sidewalk reconstruction project that'll move forward in that same time frame. So thank you to everybody. I'll leave you with our my new favorite picture of downtown Littleton. And thanks to everyone. Have a great day. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John. That was great. All right. Thank you for all that information on the River District. And we'll be hearing some more from if we have some questions out there, but we'll move right along to our next panelist is our friend Andy Smith from Peabody and Smith Realty. And before he kicks off his, I thought I'd just share a little flashback photo of the economic luncheon. Can you see that okay out there, people? Yes. And there we're seeing our friends from 15 years ago. We've got from some Bill Bailey from FCI and Bert Ingerson, who was a selectman back then. And there's Andy and Barbara Ashley and me and Brian Ward. And I have to say, I had to show this because it seems like Andy doesn't age much. He looks pretty much just the same 15 years later. So I guess he likes what he does because he makes it look fun, and real estate's not easy. So Andy, it's a pleasure to see you. Please take it away.
Okay, well, thank you, Veronica. And I think your graphics need a little help because obviously I've aged a whole lot in those years. I want to start by just thanking the Chamber and all the volunteers for pulling this together. As Veronica had said, you know, Littleton is just a can-do town. It's always had that attitude. So Bill Jolly, Peter Cooper, Veronica and team, Chrissy, thanks for pulling this together because it's a tradition that has been around for a long time. It's nice to see it continue even under a little challenging times. So I'm going to share my screen and just talk a little bit about what happened in the real estate business in 2020. For those that don't know me, my name's Andy Smith, and I am the broker owner of Peabody and Smith Realty. So we're going to focus mostly on what's happening in the region and in Littleton itself. And sure I can make this work. Okay. So we gave an update last year, which was pretty positive. 2019 was a very strong year, both for Littleton and the general region in real estate. And it was a very sustainable growth coming out of a really bad downturn about 10 years ago. It took a little while to catch up, but Littleton and general region 2014 and up has recovered very strongly, and 2019 was more of the same. We saw about a 3% increase in sale in Grafton County, 4% increase in the average home price. Very healthy, very sustainable. Things really looked on track for more of the same for 2020. Tight inventory was our main concern, and we weren't sure how we were going to tackle that. And then this little thing called COVID happened, and we certainly didn't have that in our crystal ball. We didn't have that in any of our projections or spreadsheets, and none of the businesses did. And it certainly had a very immediate negative impact for all sorts of businesses, but certainly real estate was negatively impacted. We were not considered an essential business in the first government order to stay at home. And we spent a couple of days trying to figure out how that was going to affect things. Luckily, the governor and his advisors were responsive enough to respond after a couple of days and allowed the greater real estate industry to be considered an essential business so that we could continue with showings that were already scheduled, but mostly closings and moving, and people had their lives kind of on a track that was really difficult if it just couldn't happen. So the industry rallied. The banks and the title companies, the law offices and the realtors just did a tremendous job of facing pretty big challenges to say, okay, how are we going to have a no contact closing? How are we going to get people into the house, or how are we going to get movers in, or appraisers or inspectors, all of that. But they did. We had closings out in the snow. We had closings in the rain. We met in the parking lots or lobbies, and people came in on time. So the buyers would come in and they would leave. We disinfect, and then the sellers would come in and clean and disinfect. Overall, we did get through it. And we continue to show property and list property. And we've managed to, after a couple of months, make up for lost time. So we saw a pretty big sales slump for 3 or 4 months. People couldn't travel out of the area to go find their next home. People couldn't travel here to come look at the properties we had. We got through that, and by mid-June, things really started to take off. And we've made up for lost time coming into the end of November. We're certainly at or above all of the sales that we had going in 2019. This is a chart for Grafton County residential sales. You can see some nice steady increase. 2018, there was about 1720 in unit sales. Went up a little bit to 1,720 in 2019. Year to date, we're up to 1780, and the year's not over yet. So a pretty big increase for Grafton County. And you'll also see a corresponding price increase. This is also for Grafton County. Average price was about $250,000 in 2018. It went up a little bit above that in 2019 to $252,000. And now it's up just about to $300,000 in Grafton County for the average sale price. So very, very big increase toward the last half of 2020. How's Littleton doing that time? Well, actually, we'll often say that all real estate is local. So you've really got to look at the towns and look at the inventory and what's happening. And although this trend is a little disturbing, you'll see that the numbers really aren't all that different. These are unit sales in Littleton. We had 67 sales in 2018. It dropped a little to 65 units. And year to date in 2020, we're about 63 units. So most of that isn't on the demand side, it's on the inventory side. Some people just have not felt safe or secure yet putting their house on the market. So we don't have a lot of new homes coming on. And when they do come on, they don't stay on very long. There's been a good, strong demand waiting for them. So. Littleton sales price mirrors everything else. Our average sale price in 2018 was a little under $200,000. It went up to about $203,000 in 2019, and it took a big jump up to $230,000 as the average price year to date in 2020. So that mirrors what we're seeing both statewide and across the country. About a 15% average price increase in residential homes so far year to date. One of the surprising things that we found in tracking this is that land sales have just been really strong. As more and more urban dwellers are looking for a safer environment, the North Country scored really high, and we checked all the boxes, right? We didn't have forest fires. We really didn't have civil unrest. We were one of the safest places with COVID across the country. People were seeking a refuge, not just for now, but for the long term. And you can see that the unit sales for Grafton County is up 58%, 288 sales in 2019 to 456 sales year to date in 2020. And the year isn't over. So the demand continues to be very, very strong for land sales, and that will keep our builders busy for many years to come. How's that happen in Littleton? Again, same type of thing. Relatively stable 2018 and 19, about 10 units. Year to date, just in Littleton, we've had 21 land sales so far this year. Very, very strong demand. A couple of interesting fun facts. The least expensive home in Littleton so far this year has been $15,075, with the most expensive at $718,400 in Littleton. Average days on market's been very steady, about 102 days on the market. 3 or 4 years ago, that would have been 300, 400 days on the market. So it's a rapidly turning inventory. And the average sale price in Littleton now is $229,322. It remains very strong. Prices are expected to increase at a more reasonable 4 to 6%, following both what we see regional and national trends. Our biggest challenge is still going to be the lack of inventory and new building. We really need to be able to figure out how to get some new developments going and get some affordable products out into the marketplace. And we will have buyers for those that can figure that out. So what's next? This is a forecast from the Mortgage Brokers Association for 2021. Most are thinking that rates are going to increase over the next couple of years, but not dramatically. They still are at record lows. 2020, we're looking at 3% 30-year mortgages, and the projection is that will slowly increase up to just under 4% by 2023. So still very affordable, and we'll keep the buying public very happy because those are great rates. I want to just take a minute to both personally and for my company thank all the essential workers that just kept us all going through the trials and tribulations we all faced in 2020. The retailers, they stayed open, they manned the stores, they stocked shelves. Of course, doctors, nurses, their support staff that continue to keep us healthy while facing an ever-increasing threat to themselves. Teachers, the bus drivers, restaurant workers, municipal workers, they just all showed up and carried on. A big shout out to the parents who needed not only to work from home, but they had to learn how to teach at the same time and juggle a household of energetic and anxious kids. People have just been reaching down and finding that extra kindness button. And I don't think wherever we look, we couldn't find a more responsive community, whether it was delivering meals or helping the neighbor, just checking on everybody. So thank you for everything that everybody's done so far year to date. A couple other things, inventory will remain tight. This is our inventory at the end of September, 2.7 months of inventory. Typically, a healthy market has 3 to 6 months. You can see that we jumped up in April and May, but we're down to a very, very tight supply on inventory. So that's taking us into the next year. Home prices, we think are going to continue they'll settle down, but they're going to continue to appreciate in a very steady and healthy 3 to 5% per year. And with that, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them and wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. Back to you, Veronica.
Excellent. Thank you, Andy, and appreciate that. And it is a week of Thanksgiving, so it is nice to remember to give thanks to all those essential workers and everyone in the community. We can see if maybe we do have some questions. Chrissy Smith, you want to check our Q&A board and see if any questions have come in?
Sure. We don't have any questions right now. We had a couple that came in and we were able to take care of those, and we'll follow up with some of those a little later. But no questions for right now. Thank you.
No. All right. Excellent. So you're off the hook, Andy. No hard questions today. All right. So we'll turn it over and we heard from the real estate leader. Now we'll hear from our banking leader. And we have Dan Stannard from Woodsville Guarantee Bank ready to give us an update on the banking industry. So hello, Dan.
Great. Thank you, Veronica. And thank you to the Chamber. Good morning. If I'm going to step up a little bit just so you can see, my wife said to me today, "What do you have going on in your life today, Dan?" And the reason she asked is this is the second day since the pandemic started that I wore a necktie. So I'll have it off in a little bit, but I'll wear it for this presentation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the banking related things that happened at the start of the pandemic as they lead into some of where we're at today. And first off, the banks readily offered payment deferrals to clients that were under pressure on an immediate basis from the pandemic. To give you an example, at our community bank, 7% of our residential borrowers had some level of deferral. Just under 25% of our business borrowers had some level of deferral. And for the most part, it meant for a 3 to 4 month period, they weren't required to make their regular payments. The SBA opened up its EIDL program, normally reserved for natural disasters. They opened it up to businesses that were suffering as a result of the pandemic. The federal stimulus checks that individual household received, the unemployment payment increases that individuals that were unemployed received. The SBA, if you weren't an SBA borrower, you may not know this, but anyone with an SBA guaranteed loan had the payments made on their behalf on their loan for 6 months consistently. And we have a lot of new businesses in our market area that have SBA loans. The SBA PPP loan program that many of us know about Just to put some numbers to it, our bank alone did in excess of $30 million of PPP loans in the market. And as Aaron gave an overview of the various programs that the state of New Hampshire was able to bring to the table to individuals and businesses, and that the Main Street Relief Program were just critical monies to so many of our businesses. So today, where are we today? Bank deposits are up nationwide, and like nationwide, they're up considerably in the Littleton market. So in the greater Littleton market, our deposits, and not Woodsville Guarantee, but all of the banks in the marketplace from June of 2019 to June of 2020 grew by $69.5 million or 20%. And that's a lot of money. It's a lot of power in the economy when that begins being used. And I'll frame that kind of growth for you. If you look at the 6 previous year periods before 19 to 20, the total growth in deposits in the greater Littleton market was 59 million, or approximately 3% per year. So there is a lot of fuel sitting in deposit accounts in our local banks that can provide safety for businesses, but also when we come out the other end, it can create a lot of fuel for a lot of activities, businesses and individuals. So where did all that money come from? It obviously came from the stimulus programs that I talked about in the beginning. It also came from a certain amount of nervousness about the stock market. And why is it still on deposit? Why is it still with us? Not all businesses suffered. We heard people talk about that. There are certain industries that have not suffered. Still, most of our businesses did apply for PPP loans. And if you think of being a business owner in April of 2020, you really didn't know what the future held for you. So you needed to protect yourself and take advantage of programs like that. Not all individuals and families suffered financially. People save money when they feel insecure. People worried about the second wave that has ultimately come. And people that took PPP loans and maybe their business didn't suffer, they've been anxious about spending the money, wondering what the forgiveness process would look like and whether the program might simply be too good to be true. Some of the industries that clearly remained under stress, the obvious ones, lodging, dining, certain retail businesses, they're being clearly further impacted by the current surge and by the restrictions, the season getting colder. At the same time, I think all of us have seen these entrepreneurs come up with really creative ways to run their businesses and make the best of a time that was particularly trying. Some of the industries, as I said, and as other presenters have said, are doing fine, and some are doing extraordinarily well. The construction trades, certain manufacturing businesses, certain services, real estate once we got through the period as Andy described, locally grown and produced foods. Their challenges as we talk with them day in and day out are not different from where they've been the last few years. They need employees, they need quality employees. Some of those businesses can't be at capacity because of a lack of employees. And what about the loan side of banking? Andy talked about the real estate market on the sales side, which clearly has produced a lot of volume for banks and other lenders, but as well, the power of low interest rates has created a refinancing boom. We've had borrowers that have taken advantage of rates as low as 2.5% to lower their payments, to consolidate debt, to shorten the length of their loans. And as Andy said, the latter half of the year has been a very strong sales market. On the business lending side, we've had a strong pipeline of loan requests throughout the pandemic. We have had certain industries that have opted to put projects on hold because they would be impacted by the pandemic, but it's been a strong and a good year in terms of business loans. And I think Littleton is well served by great community banks, and all of those banks have stayed open for business. What's the health of our loan portfolio at this time? I think a lot of people will ask me, so what's happening? You know, are your businesses struggling? Are your individuals struggling? And it's interesting, we have record low delinquency rates at this point. And when I say record low, over the past few months, they're probably lower than they've been in the history of the bank. Now, many clients, as I mentioned, did receive deferments, but most of those businesses and individuals have been making their regular loan payments for 2 and 3 months, yet a lot of them have built reserves through some of the stimulus. At our bank, we've had no new residential foreclosures since the start of the pandemic. If families have challenges that lead to the need to sell a home, the market is robust and they're able to sell homes. We've had no businesses today in our portfolio that have closed directly related to the impact of the pandemic. Both of those things are very favorable for where we are. But we know that there are businesses that remain under stress. We know the industries that are under stress, and we believe that they need further support. On our own at Woodsville Guarantee and through our industry groups, we are pushing for further stimulus. I listen to a lot of business news, and last week I heard an economist say, now that we have the vaccines coming, I think that we'll definitely get stimulus because people will understand what's needed, and there's kind of an end to it. They can see it as a bridge. This morning on my way into work, I heard an economist say, I don't know that we're going to get it, and it may be small. We like to be optimistic at Woodsville Guarantee. I said to our CEO, Jim Graham, this morning, I said, I'm going to say that we still think there's stimulus coming because we do believe that there will be some stimulus. And we want to be optimistic about that. We think there could be additional PPP monies and that they could be targeted to those businesses in our economy that are under stress. And we look for them to perhaps allow them to pay other costs that keep them under pressure at this point. Lastly, I would say, we remain cautious. We're building our own loan loss reserves, which is a prudent thing to do when an economy is under pressure. But at the same time, listening to economists last week, with there being a better definition of vaccine timelines, you're hearing consistently, real relief is in sight. And when relief comes, we're going to have a market that, like Andy said, has low interest rates. We're going to have a market that has a lot of liquidity. And we have a lot of liquidity right in Littleton. We have a lot of pent-up demand from businesses. We have a lot of pent-up demand for individuals. How many of us would love to go somewhere? How many of us would love to have our families with us? I think those things speak really well for the Littleton economies. So as we look forward, we need to get to the other side. We think some stimulus would be really helpful. And if you happen to be in one of those businesses that's under pressure, we have great community bankers in Littleton. Meet with your bank, use them as a resource, explain what you need to help you get to the other side of this. And I think your bankers will be good partners. So thank you very much for letting me share. And if there are questions at some point, happy to address them.
Excellent. Thank you, Daniel. That was very informative and good to hear. And I know we're all hearing from every industry what a challenge this year has been. Chrissy, have there been any questions coming in at this point?
No, we don't have any. It's great to hear what's going on in Littleton. And Dan, thank you.
Yes, that's for sure. All right. So we're moving along in our panel. And I did want to take a moment because we are hearing from all these different industries. And one industry, when we think of Littleton, we always think of Main Street. And Main Street has really been our front line during this by having shoppers, learning how to have people come in your stores, in your restaurants. There has been issues with public restrooms that we've heard all summer that we know that our town leaders are working on. That is an issue. But we wanted to hear right from our merchants and how they made out. So I took my video camera out over the weekend. I talked with some Main Street merchants and I put together this update from my neighbors on how Main Street is doing at this time. So I'll just take a moment and share my screen, and here we go.
Main Street of the Mountains. Whether you are a Littleton local or a visitor for the first time, you can always find something new on Main Street. This year, like everyone else, Main Street businesses had to navigate carefully. It was a scary spring for all of us, but turned into a supportive summer. We had so many visitors from the Northeast who took a day trip or a weekend to check out Littleton. Our Main Street businesses have persevered so far. Some expanded, and even some new ones opened. And we all found unique ways to connect with our customers and stay safe. As we kick off the holidays today, our shops are decorated, and our shopkeepers are telling us to shop local and support our hometown. Shop early. Don't wait for the big sale days. Spread it out. And some sales even start today at some popular stores. And shop however you feel comfortable. Curbside pickup, phone, or online orders. Our local shops are ready, and our restaurants are giving us some great takeout options to keep us full over the holidays. So thank you, Main Street Littleton, for keeping us entertained, making us feel at home, and sharing your unique gifts with the community.
Okay. Hopefully you saw that. Did that work? Okay. So thank you. And remember to shop early, spread it out. There's lots of sales going on at popular stores, and they are willing to shop however you want. So I'm glad to hear from our Main Street and proud to be part of the Main Street community. Okay, so we're moving right along on our panel, and we've heard from different pockets. Now we're going to hear from the whole town, our hard-working town manager, Andrew Dorsett. So I'll turn it over to Andrew.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for putting this on, and the chamber, and you, Veronica, for all you do. And this is such a great event. It's always got a good positive spin on it with so much bad news. So I'm glad to be here. I'm just going to share my screen if I can figure out how to do it. Let's see. I think. Okay. Can everybody see that okay? Okay. Presentation mode.
Can you
Okay,
expand? There you go. Perfect.
So, we've heard some good news about deposits at the bank, and great news about manufacturing being strong and growing. The housing values are strong and growing, and inventory is obviously kind of a limiting factor there. Consumer demand, and I think it was either last year or the year before, I talked a little bit about how we were starting to experiment with consumer data analytics to actually track consumer behavior in town, and it showed that Littleton, even more than we knew before, was a really strong hub. And so, from that, we've taken that information and then been able to talk with quite a few developers and use that in some of our project designs. So just going to talk a little bit about some of the important things for us to help with economic activity really are stabilizing the tax rate, keeping up with the infrastructure needs to meet all the growing demands, and then also doing community and economic development that helps create a great environment for our community that's here and also wanting to live here. John covered a lot of things earlier, and I'll just go over a little bit of it, some of the same things maybe with a different angle. But right here, I just wanted to show one of the things about the Littleton's tax rate. Not tax rate, but it's tax valuation, so the total parcel values in the community. So this is always based on a look back from the prior year. And so we just completed a revaluation, and we've added this year, or the town, and with all taxable land, residential, manufactured housing, commercial, industrial, and utilities, $106,854,000 to the tax base for this year. So what that means is there's a lot more value to divide up the expenses that it costs to run the town, school, county, and state education. Another thing that we've done, I don't have a slide for it here, previous, I think it was 2 years ago, was we took a quarter of the town's tax rate approximately, which is the Great River Hydro, and we did, I think it's either one of a kind or two of a kind in the state of New Hampshire. We did a utilities pilot agreement, a payment in lieu of taxes, which took that very important tax parcel and stabilize that large piece of the Littleton tax base to really start creating more of a flat curve. And in fact, if you look at our tax rates over the past several years, we haven't been in a downward trend, and the past 2 years have actually been flat at 2310. One of the other things that we've been doing along with infrastructure is taking a look at all of our equipment. And we're trying to, it's been something in the works for a while, but now we're really moving forward with it. The town 5 years ago when I came in didn't have any capital reserves. We didn't set aside money, we just lived on debt, which can create spikes and drops in the tax rate. So in an effort to plan well and spend the money right, we're planning out all of our purchases at least 10 years out and starting to really coordinate too with the school and other entities to make sure that we're not all asking the taxpayers for the same thing at the same time. And we have a pretty large amount of debt coming off of the debt service this year. There was a payment to one of the utilities for some settlement that I think lasted 10 years, and the town had to pay about $450,000 a year for that settlement. And that's coming off. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that we feather that in with some of the expenses that are coming up so that the tax rate doesn't take an immediate drop and then have to spike back up again by filling up our reserves. So also just going to cover some of the projects here. So Dell's Dam, I think everybody's familiar with that. I believe the town has been getting a letter from DES saying that the dam is a red listed dam and needs to be repaired or removed for probably, if I had to guess, I think it was 13, 14 years now. So they're really serious. And so the town had approved some engineering funds, I think it might have been 6 years ago. And we really started kind of preliminary looking at it. But then a discussion started about should the dam be removed? And there was some community discussion about that. And what we plan on doing over this next year is to have some community discussions. We planned to do it this year, but COVID came. Have some community discussions, see what the public wants. Do they want to keep this historic recreation pond and the dam, or do they want to remove it and do a wetlands restoration project? So you'll see more of that coming up. But we are working with the engineering firm Du Bois & King on that. And then to just a little bit about some of the housing demand. We're trying to be creative and with some of the assets that we have. One of the things that I hear people bring up fairly often, and it sometimes is tied in with the school, the discussion for a new Lakeway Elementary, is what is the town doing with the Eaton parcel? Again, this is a parcel, I think it was purchased by the town a number of years ago with the original intent was actually to be recreation fields. And then there was a discussion later on to subdivide a portion of it, which the town, I believe, did with the school for the purpose of building a school. And if it wasn't done in a certain number of years, then the town would end up with the property again. So that was a long time ago. We still have the land. The committee has, I think, looked at it several times to see if a school would go there. It doesn't seem that that's going to be the case. I'd say it's definitely not from what I hear. So the select board really wanted to try to come up with something to address a couple of needs. So one is let's put the thing into taxable use. And the other is taking advantage of a hot real estate market and perhaps helping to provide some housing options. So we had a buyer's broker opinion done on this parcel, and they suggested that we could sell it for around $300,000. One of the things that the board and I have discussed is if we just put this on the market, it could end up being purchased for $300,000 and then just sit as a vacant piece of land for the next 20 years while someone plans on what to do. So instead, what we're going to do is we're creating an RFP process. And in the RFP process, potential investors are going to actually have to put their plan before the board. And they'll have to also show that they have the financing and the investors to actually carry out a project immediately. They're also going to have an inventory already and demonstrate that they have the capabilities to actually carry out a construction project. I know that some developers have already been in contact and have started talking about putting up a mixture of condominiums, single-family homes, and other types of housing. And we'll see what happens with this process. We're going to move it through pretty quick, hopefully releasing an RFP tomorrow with a 2-week turnaround, and then we have to start what's called the RSA 4114A process, very slow, but hopefully we'll have some action within 2 to 3 months. In other projects, the Opera House has been using the COVID time for a lot of planning. The select board, I believe it was last year, created a cultural arts commission for the community. And really it was to try to get the arts community a seat at the table and to start, really being a part of infrastructure design and project development in the community, and a place where artists could come and share information. So the group has been pretty active. We were able to get a grant with the help of NCIC. I believe it's actually 2 grants to do the design of the Cottage Street level of the Opera House. If anyone has been in there, there used to be a police station and a fire station, and right now it is completely blank with partial dirt floors, and it's just totally underutilized. So the vision is to have the Littleton Opera House transform into a cultural arts center for the community, and we've in a competitive process hired Dennis Myers Architects, and you can see some of the renderings that we've started, and that'll be ongoing. We hope to have a full public presentation on that in the coming month or 2. Also at the Opera House, we received a grant, a few grants for this project. This was for the sound system, lighting, and also rigging to hold the lighting. We have a number of grants. I think our budget was around $90,000. The sound system upgrade is now complete. So, as it says here, it's a fully digital based backbone system and has expansion capability. We realized that this was actually a major limiting factor to get regional or even national names into the Opera House for performances. The sound system was very inadequate, and it required rental of a full sound system just for one event. So this will help expand what kind of performances can come in there. Main Street Phase 2, this was something that John touched on a little bit. Our plan this year, for the past 4 years, we've applied for federal money. It was kind of a Hail Mary pass. All the money from one agency, which was the Federal Department of Transportation. The process to apply for the grants, develop the package was very costly and time consuming. I made the decision earlier this year to say we're not going to apply for that grant anymore unless we can find an alternative way to do this. We're going to have to just go to the voters and ask for funds. However, this year the EDA has some funding available, and we're looking at doing a pretty, I think it's a creative funding package where we're actually teaming up with the New Hampshire Department of Transportation. So we're going to go after EDA funds, which is the Economic Development Authority, CDBG funds, Northern Region Border Commission funds. And because this project is partially situated in the sub-Area 2 wastewater collection system, we're also going to be able to utilize the sub-Area 2 bonding authority that the Littleton taxpayers gave us. So we're moving ahead. I've started talking with some property owners, and it's looking good. This year, the select board, this was another one. I get a lot of input from people over in the Abthorpe district side of town. They've often, just wanted a little more attention, and we're trying to figure out how could they get get attention to some of the things that they wanted. And so I had recommended to them, take a look at the River District. They have been really successful in getting their vision out there and really getting to work with the town to help to bring it to fruition. So they decided to create, or requested we created, an Abthorpe District Committee. The select board created that this year. They've been meeting monthly, and they are moving forward toward a planned New Hampshire design charrette, hopefully for 2021. And you can see they have a lot of things that they've just laid out there. They want to start working on. A lot of it's streetscape, traffic calming, fixing intersections, branding, marketing. So we'll see a lot more from them. Another project that we have going on, the voters approved a $75,000 expenditure that will be 100% reimbursed for Partridge Lake watershed restoration. Phase 1 is underway. There's quite a few people working on it. The Partridge Lake Advisory Committee and the Partridge Lake Association and New Hampshire DES have been really working hard on this one. Luckily, I get to stay in the background on it. So, but they're trying to tackle the algae problem at the lake. Trails. So we started back in, you can see this map from 2017, trails planning and mapping. But that involves quite a bit. You know, this also takes into account some of the work we're doing in the River District. We have the trails mapping project, the rail trail industrial to Beacon that John spoke about earlier is now underway. Kilburn Craigs, we're looking at parking safety there. There's been increased activity there, and there's only space for 2 to possibly 3 cars. We're also looking at a parcel across the street from Kilburn Craigs that the town owns. We'll have a warrant article this year to create a dog park and walking trails. People could probably park there and across the street to use Kilburn Craigs. Remick Park walkway, that project is underway. So I think it's fully funded. And that's part of the playground and Remick Park upgrade project. That'll be a literacy walkway. And then the River Walk. The River Walk right now, you know, we do have one good loop, but there's some disconnections. John showed you the bridge earlier that we put in 2016 down on Bridge Street, but we really don't have a strong pedestrian connection to it if you've tried to walk to it. So it's been in the plan for a while, and it looks like we'll be getting closer to there 2021. And that's the connection from Saranac Bridge and Deer Court. And you could see some of that in the Main Street Phase 2 Saranac realignment. And then there's also some discussions going on right now about using the existing wastewater collection sewer easement. We have a pretty wide sewer easement that runs along the Ammonoosuc River to the treatment plant, and that it may be a good way to get more people down toward the meadow without having to go on the roadway. John spoke about this a little bit earlier, the Riverfront Commons project. This is an exciting project, and I don't know if my thing's in the way there, but it's being funded by, you know, as John said, there was a $175,000 coming from the taxpayers. There's been $140,000 private donation. We're selling these CDFA tax credits. We've sold all of the tax credits for fiscal year 2021, and we still have a little bit left for 2022. You can see there is an advantage to you if you want to purchase some for your business. And from what I understand, you can actually claim that remaining. If you look at the tax saving for businesses, $1,710, there may be a way to claim that on your federal taxes as a donation. So, but you got to talk to your tax consultant and contact John or Greg Eastman. They've been really working hard on this as well. And then just to kind of show you some of the success that we've had in teaming up with River District and other groups, and we contract with NCIC. This is our grant status overview as of right now. We've had quite a bit of success. We have some applications still pending out there, and there's even more that I don't see on here yet that are out pending. So just quite a bit going on. There's a number of infrastructure projects that I haven't included, but I don't know if anybody has any specific questions. I know there was one question about would public bathrooms potentially be available in the new barn, and I believe that's part of the final plan. So a lot happening. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Andrew. There are some other questions.
Great. Go ahead.
So
Chris.
one question for you, Andrew, was, okay. One question was, why are you setting the deadline short in terms of responding to the RFPs for the Eaton property at 2 weeks? And how much has the concept been publicized?
Yep. So again, it's a quick turnaround. I think that I've put the word out to developers. It will be more broadly advertised tomorrow if the select board decides to move forward with it. And we want a quick turnaround so that we can really just capitalize on the demand that's out there and get projects, get investors who are ready to put the shovel in the ground when the thaw happens. So part of the RFP process requires that they show us that they are either liquid or have investment ready to go. And I know they're already out there because they're knocking on the door. So that's the need for the quick list. One of the issues is the process that we have to sell property by, the RSA 4114A. That takes so much longer than closing or anything else. It's a series of public hearings and opinion letters and potential for any kind of a public petition. So in order to get that underway and the property actually in the hands of a developer for construction when the ground thaws, that's the real push.
Okay. And another question, thank you, Andrew. Another question was someone asked about the Cottage Street sidewalks time frame. If there's something happening there.
Yep. Yeah. So that process, we're still working through the. We're preparing for final engineering. It's a grant funded project, $800,000 from the New Hampshire Transportation Alternative Program and $200,000 from the town of Littleton taxpayers. So the grant process has quite a few rigid steps in it, and we're at the point right now where we're starting to get to final engineering and then a process we go through with the DOT to do what's called a local agreement or a white line to white line agreement. And that's what allows us to build into the DOT's right of way and do bump outs and parking spaces and that sort of thing, like on Main Street. We hope, we just had a brief meeting on it last week. We hope to be ready to have the federal funds allocated for construction in 2021. It's really hard to say just because of the all of the hands that are in the process. So.
And one more comment from Executive Counselor Joe Kenny wrote that the governor, Andrew, has indicated that a likely congressional stimulus plan next year will include major capital funding to include funds for dams. So you'll have to coordinate with him in the future.
Thank you, Executive Counselor. We will need it for Dell's Dam for sure. Thank you.
Okay. Is that all the questions today for that, Chrissy?
Yes, that was it.
Excellent. Well, thank you all the audience members who are submitting questions live, and great job, Andrew. And thank you for all you do. We know you're busy behind the scenes. We don't see you as much out, but we know you're working hard. So thank you again. Okay. Well, it's interesting to hear all about all the things that are going around the whole town. And that leads me to my next speaker is at what I noticed working in the shop and having visitors come into the shop all summer is that people stayed local this summer. We couldn't travel as far away as we wanted. So we had visitors from maybe Groveton who'd never visited Littleton as a tourist, or a lot of people from Manchester and southern part of the state. And they'd always say, oh, I've never been here. I just discovered Littleton. And they'd want to learn all the great places all around Littleton, not just Main Street. And I realized there's parts of Littleton that I'm not even that familiar with. So I worked with some of my local business friends down in Apthorpe who are trying to get more business down towards Brook Road, to our friends out on Meadow Street or up north in northern Littleton, and trying to really get a larger view and helping to promote all the great things about Littleton. But what it really needed was a fresh pair of eyes. So we turned to Kuba and sent him out with his camera. And he's a young professional here who's finishing up his degree in business and sales down at Plymouth University. He's been a great asset to Go Littleton this summer. So Kuba, you want to say just a couple minutes what you found out there, and then we'll share your work.
Sure, I'd love to. So first off, hello everyone. Thanks for coming. This is a really cool opportunity for me. I've never been a part of a meeting like this with so many great local leaders, so I'm truly honored to be here. So as Veronica said, I am finishing up my degree this coming May at Plymouth State. I am a business management major with a focus in professional sales. It's going very well. Recently, a few months ago, I guess I'd say, she reached out to me as she heard that I am focusing in sales and brought me onto the Go Littleton team to try to expand the website and have more of the local businesses that aren't doing very much advertising online, or some of the new ones that have recently opened up, join due to the increased number of traffic that we've been seeing on the website, and try to get a little bit more exposure to some of those businesses. I started doing some recording with just a regular handheld camera, but I quickly realized that so many people have done this, it doesn't really stand out. And so I decided to invest in it a little bit more, and I started getting into more aerial videography and photography. I bought a drone recently, and I'm in the process of getting licensed to do this as a business. So she asked me if I could put together a little bit of some of the areas throughout Littleton from a unique bird's eye view, I guess you could say. And I was really surprised with how well everything came out. I hope you guys all really like what I was able to put together. And hopefully down the line, you'll see some of the videos that the two of us are able to create on the website and throughout some of the businesses as they put them on their own websites to share a unique perspective on what the town is like.
Excellent. Thank you, Kuba. And I'll share my screen and make sure I get the right one here. And here we go. I'll expand and play. Nice job, Kuba. Could everyone see that okay and hear that? Yay. Excellent. And if anyone wants to learn more about videos and learn about Go Littleton or Discover Littleton, which is our new promotional campaign to help all visitors discover all the pieces of Littleton, then just let us know. All right, so we're moving towards one of our last updates. Last but not least is our Chamber Board President, William Jolly. Before I turn him on, Chrissy, do you have any questions left out there or any chats?
No, that was a great job, Cuba, and thank you. And there aren't any more questions right now.
Okay, I'll queue up our next speaker and get him ready because Bill wasn't sure of his, we're all struggling with broadband wherever we are, right? So he wasn't too sure of his connection. And that is something that all of us always continue to bring more broadband to the North Country. We can never stop and we can never have too much. But just to be safe, we pre-recorded Bill's update from the Chamber last week. And I'm going to share my screen and show that now. So here we go. I'll share my screen. And here is Bill Jolly.
Thank you to all of our guest speakers. This has been a great event, and I really appreciate all the work that everybody's done to prepare for it, and hopefully we can do it again in person next year. Right now, I'm just going to take a moment to just kind of bring our membership up to speed on where your chamber is. It's your chamber, and you should know where it is, since it's because of you that it's existed all these years in the past, and it's because of you that it will exist going forward. Your board has been hard at work. The COVID situation, like everybody, it affected us in a way that we never could have imagined when we first learned about COVID. We're still muddling through it. We're having a virtual meeting now, right? So that's kind of what we have as an organization to deal with. This is the environment we're given. But I want to let you know how things got to where we are today and give you some positive news. When COVID came about, the chamber was already in some financial distress, but it was manageable. We were managing and we were developing a plan for emerging from that financial distress. When COVID came along, that put that plan out to pasture. And so we had to come up with almost a tourniquet, if you will, to stop the bleeding, and we did that. We had to take some steps that were not popular and that were not enjoyable in any way, but because of those steps and those decisions that we as a board made, we've put ourselves in a position where we can now operate with confidence. And so I'm just going to kind of get into the weeds on this a little bit without boring you to death. One of the biggest things we did as a chamber board was to review our mission statement, and we came to the conclusion that it needed to be refined a bit, and not completely dismantled, but refined and focused in order for us to have relevance for you as members and for the community. And so to do that, we spent a lot of time really refining it. And I'm just going to read it to you for a minute, and it's going to come up on your screen. The new mission statement is as follows. The Littleton Area Chamber of Commerce is a member-driven organization working to ensure our region continues to be a great place to live, work, and play. We strive to set the standard for collaboration with other nonprofits to strengthen our bond between our members and the community. Our membership resources, business advocacy, community building activities, and other programs and events serve to promote economic and workforce development, tourism, networking opportunities, and a vibrant regional economy. That's our mission statement. It fit in just a couple of sentences, but I think it speaks volumes to what we can do for you as a member and what we can do for your community. Unlike a lot of communities, we are really vested here in the well-being of the community as business owners. And so we want to make sure that the North Country thrives for even people that don't necessarily work for our member organizations. We want a good, vibrant community. We live here. Like most organizations around the globe, the Littleton Chamber of Commerce was forced by COVID to adapt to an opaque and austere environment. Our financial situation has improved to the point where we say that we're in triage now as opposed to the ER. Our newfound financial stability, our laser focus on our mission, and our dedication to success allows the board to give our attention to three areas that are generic to any organization, but they are what makes an organization succeed or fail. These areas are cash flow management, expanding our board membership to reflect a more diverse business community, and reintroducing and creating new events that will accomplish those stay, work, play goals that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to expand on each of these now, and if you have any questions beyond what I present today, please reach out to us at board@littletonAreaChamber.com. So with regard to cash flow management, the board had to make some real tough decisions as soon as we realized that the end was not immediately visible for the COVID situation, and our cash flow had been 100% interrupted. We took out additional debt through the SBA, but we haven't tapped into that yet. It's an operational expense account that we haven't had to use, thankfully. We cut our expenses dramatically in the areas of our lease and in the area of payroll. Both of those decisions were very difficult and very unpleasant to execute on. But without having done those things, the chamber would be in far worse shape. As a result of having taken those steps, we are now in a position where you could say that the tourniquet worked and we are in triage and we're planning our way forward. So the cash flow right now, the situation today is that last week, last Friday, we had projected to, and you should have received by now, an invoice for the upcoming year. Again, as a membership-driven organization, without you, we can't succeed. But we're bringing value, and we'll get into that a little bit in the next couple of items. We also understand that, like us, our members have cash flow issues, and so just a little off topic, but a reasonable tangent to it. If people are having a hard time, we understand that, and your membership with us is more valuable to us than your dues. So please communicate with us if there's a problem. We want to lose nobody because of this COVID situation, so just know that. So that's cash flow management. We've tightened our belt. We have a very low expense rate every month, and we are now able to focus on other things. Expanding the board membership is very important for a couple of reasons. We don't want a board that operates in a vacuum. We want a board that has input from our members, and the only way to really have that is to have a diverse representation of different industries and different ideas and different perspectives, frankly. Everybody has their own opinions on what the best way is to skin a cat. We really want to make sure that if you have the best idea, that we know about it. And so we encourage people that are interested to be on the board that you reach out to us. We do want to make sure that we have, again, a broad representation, but we've been bringing people in and having discussions with people about board membership, and if board membership is something that's not manageable from a time standpoint, it is a time commitment. If that's not manageable, we would ask that you just talk to us about something that you're most interested in, whether it's a committee, maybe there's a particular event that you want to make sure continues. Let us know about that, and we'll keep you involved in that way. But board membership at the highest level for strategic planning, that's one of our focuses, and we hope that we can have your input on that. The third item that we've brought up and that we're focusing on now, and it's kind of a new discussion, we had to make sure that everything else was covered so we didn't get blindsided, is the reintroduction of events as conditions permit, the redesigning of events like this today. We're not together, unfortunately. We're doing this virtually. That gives me the opportunity to pre-record everything so I can keep doing takes. But other than that, it's not really ideal, is it? But it's what we have today. And so as things change, as hopefully inoculations work, and as treatments work, and as we get a better grasp on how COVID is and how it impacts us as individuals and us as a society, we'll be able to continue to reintroduce things in a personal sense. And so a lot of the events that had been put on a back burner for reasons that I can't necessarily understand in some cases, we're really going to focus on bringing those back as live events. And then also other events to make working and playing and living in the Littleton area and in the North Country in general more enjoyable, and to make Littleton a draw for not just economic events, but cultural events, and then the economic benefit that comes from hosting those things. So that's kind of a real thumbnail sketch of events, but all of them are going to be nested within that mission statement. So Again, if you have an event that you miss, that you want to bring back, if you have an event that hasn't happened yet and you think it should, reach out to me directly or reach out to the board at large, any member of the board, let us know. We really want to hear from you. And then that's really it. So thank you for this time today. Thank you for being flexible and adaptive to this environment and participating in something that none of us had even heard of 10 months ago. A virtual event was not a thing then, right? So thank you for participating today, and thank you again to all of our guest speakers, and thank you to everybody that helped put this thing together. The next thing we're going to be having is the Ray Burton Award, and so we're just going to hand that off to Veronica, and she'll make sure things happen in the proper way. Thanks again.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. I hope we all got to see him this time and not just hear him. Did we see him? Excellent. Chrissy, did we have any questions come in or?
No questions for Bill. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Bill, and thank you all for our panelists. They've been great, and they've been hanging in there through our whole event of being on camera. I appreciate that. So it is now time, and if I had a drum roll, I would play the drum roll to say it is time for the award announcement of the Ray Burton Business Leader of the Year Award. And we're very pleased to have sponsored this section by Mascoma Bank. And to present this year's award is live Mr. William Malikis.
Oh, thank you, Veronica. It's greatly appreciated. Before I do the award, I have to share with everyone that the other night, we went out for dinner, and Main Street Littleton is looking very festive, and it is bringing joy and hope. And so I want to thank our business people for taking the time and the effort to make Main Street Littleton just look absolutely beautiful for the season. So this year's recipient, along with her husband, has been a proprietor of a Main Street restaurant for more than 40 years. She welcomes familiar faces as well as new customers with warmth and a smile. She has a unique ability which enables her to remember people's names even after meeting them just once. She is truly the epitome of what a small town restaurant owner should be. She represents Littleton in the best possible way. Her loyal customers, as well as tourists, always leave with a smile. Her employees respect and love her as she treats them with the greatest amount of respect. We are all considered a family at the Coffee Pot. So obviously, this year's recipient of the Ray Burton Business Leader Award is Jean McKenna. Jean said it was an honor to receive this award, but many of us feel it is truly our honor to have her as the cornerstone to our community. So thank you, Jean.
Thank you, Bill Malikis, for nominating me the Ray Burton Business Leader of the Year for Littleton, New Hampshire. I am honored. I am totally overwhelmed with the honor that you have bestowed on us, because this isn't a me, this is an us. Jim McKenna and I have not only created but evolved the Coffee Pot to suit the local people. And we do love them all, and we do encourage them all to stay with us. Thank you very much.
For 40 years, Jean has been the goodwill ambassador to Littleton because of the Coffee Pot. She truly represents the best of small towns like Littleton. Everyone, regulars and one-timers, are treated like family here by both Jean and her staff. She says it's an honor to receive this award. No, it's an honor for us to have Jean as Littleton's cornerstone, and we thank her very much.
Thank you, Bill, for giving that award, and we're very proud of Jean. And then if anyone stops in the coffee pot to say hello, she, like all of our merchants and all of our business owners, are learning how to challenge through this crazy year. So again, that brings us to the end of this virtual event. Are there any questions or concerns hanging out there for our crowd? Again, this was a community event. It is the week of Thanksgiving. I say thanks to all my panelists. Thanks for those audience members who hung in. Thank you, Ethan, to Father Mark for praying that my Zoom worked, even though his didn't quite work. But hey, we got through it. I appreciate this honor. And if anyone has any exciting new virtual events for me to host, let me know. So happy Thanksgiving, Littleton, and here's to a much better year next year. Thank you. Now I need all that applause, right? Okay, signing off.